Hello and welcome back to Ghost Tracks Podcast. This is Tina. How's everybody doing today? We're good. It's a little chilly outside today. We are prepping for a pretty significant snowstorm, or supposed snowstorm. We'll see what actually happens. But yeah, not much else happening here. We're excited to get on another episode. Today, we're going to be keeping it semi-local as well. Still be here in Indiana. We'll be visiting Whispers Estate. Now, I have done a ghost investigation here, a paranormal investigation at Whispers Estate, which I'll talk about a little bit here further into the episode, but we'll get into some background and where these ghosts may come from is talked about. Whispers Estate is an estate that is located in Mitchell, Indiana. It has been steeped with local legends since its erection, and I know I said erection, but how about we don't be children about it, okay? This home has been said to cause death to those who even walk in front of the property, and it's inhabited by multiple entities as well as portals within its walls. This home was originally built in 1894, and it was owned by George White and his wife Sarah. The beautiful estate was then purchased in 1899 by Dr. John Gibbons, another doctor. Back in the day, I'm wondering what the prerequisites to become a doctor back then were. Like, know where your fingers and toes are, because I feel like they were just handing this shit out to everybody. But it was purchased in 1899 by Dr. John Gibbons and his wife Jessie. While Dr. Gibbons was a well-known physician in Mitchell, his home was plagued by tragedy. The first floor of the estate was where the doctor's home office was located. This is where he treated the sick and sometimes dying. He gave his life to his patients and treated for over a 26-year period at Whispers Estate. Dr. Gibbons and his wife were unable to have children of their own, but they did adopt 3 orphan children. Legend says in the early 1900s, a family was passing by the estate in their carriage when the father suddenly passed away and the mother fell ill. Now, this was immediately. Mind you, they're just passing on the street. They weren't going into the estate. They weren't speaking to anyone. They simply horse and buggied it across the threshold of this house, and father died instantaneously, and then the mother fell ill, and she died just days later. This family was said to be the parents of a child who would then be adopted by the Gibbons. This has never been confirmed. I believe the child that we're about to talk to, given that it was, 1899, early 1900s, I don't believe that their adoption records were very accurate, if they existed at all at that time. So we're not really positive where this young lady who was then adopted by the Gibbons, where she came from or what her circumstance was prior to. That was just a legend of how this young lady came to reside with the Gibbons family. While the death of the man and the woman may be a legend, the tragedies to find the Gibbons family were not. In 1921, on Christmas morning, the daughter of Dr. and Mrs. Gibbons, Rachel, this is the child that was said to have been adopted by them when her parents passed away as they were passing the home. Rachel was said to have snuck out of bed to peek at some Christmas presents in the parlor of the home. The presents were located near the fireplace, and Rachel accidentally got too close to the fireplace, and her clothing caught fire, causing the parlor to be set ablaze, and Rachel to suffer from severe burns. Not a Christmas story that we would like to hear, ever, even back then. After 2 days of suffering, 10-year-old Rachel did pass away in her upstairs bedroom of the home. Rachel's passing was only the beginning of the tragedies that would find the Gibbons, though. After the passing of Rachel, 1933, the Gibbons' 10-month-old infant daughter, Elizabeth, also passed away. Her cause of death has never been determined definitively. It is said that it was cot death, which is now known as SIDS, or sudden infant death syndrome. Just 2 weeks later, Jessie Gibbons, the wife, was also struck by double pneumonia and passed away in her bed in the master bedroom. The master bedroom was the same bedroom where 10-month-old Elizabeth passed away just several weeks earlier. Dr. Gibbons did remain in the home until his death in or around 1944, and after the Gibbons family, Whispers Estate was home to many other families over the years, many of which suffered their own tragedies within the walls. Some of these deaths were thought to be accidents, but mysterious nonetheless given the circumstances of the home's history and the home itself. One of these deaths was a gentleman in the 1950s or 1960s. He passed away in the upstairs bathroom, and unfortunately, he was not found for 3 days. That's just horrible. I can't imagine finding a decedent in general, especially if it is a family member of mine, to just come home on a normal day and come in and all of a sudden, your family member is just gone. But to have a family member pass away and then not be found for multiple days, that's just horrific. Another death was a young boy who fell down the front staircase of the home and passed away due to his injuries from that fall. The father of that young boy also passed away in the home from a fatal heart attack. So after the child passed away, the family did move out of Whispers Estate, and I believe the father was coming back into the home to gather some of the family's items, and he went upstairs into a closet to gather up some of those items, and that is where that heart attack happened, and he passed away in the closet upstairs. Just absolutely horrific, especially given that the family had left the home in an attempt to get away from the tragedies that happened in the home. And then to come back into the home just to gather things, to move on from your life and, start new somewhere else, and then to be struck down again, the family struck again by tragedy when you were so close to, living a new life somewhere else. That's just terrible. Around the year 2000, the home did become vacant, and it stayed vacant until it was purchased in 2006 with the intention of being restored and turned into a historic bed and breakfast. During its restoration, it seems those that lingered within the walls began to engage with the living inhabitants, causing strange activity. I believe that the owner of the bed and breakfast was on site. They did remain in the home during the restoration period, but a lot of the workers that were there obviously were not residing inside the walls. But anyone who knows anything at all about paranormal activity knows that when homes are disturbed or changed in any way, the residents of said home tend to become unnerved and become a lot more active during the construction period of the home. So that seems to be what happened here. The activity during this time, workers, guests, and new owners alike all began to hear whispers throughout the home. And this is where the estate gained its name, was in around 2006 during this restoration period. On the grounds of the estate, there are said to be at least 4 graves left from the time of the Gibbons family. Graves are not said to be the family members themselves, rather those who died of botched procedures done by the doctor. It is rumored that Dr. Gibbons was not fond of women, and he often, and this is a trigger warning, I am going to talk about sexual assault here in a minute, briefly, as well as abortion. So if anyone has an issue with hearing these things or is not in a good headspace to hear them, I should have said this at the beginning. I apologize for that, but maybe skip ahead, maybe about 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and then continue listening. But here we go. It is rumored that Dr. Gibbons was not fond of women, and he often molested his female patients and was known to do gruesome abortions on some of those patients. While the individual graves occupants are not known, the horror doesn't stop there. Many psychics have investigated the grounds. Many paranormal investigators have come to the grounds, and it is said that psychics and investigators alike have said that there is also a pit grave which contains amputated limbs, internal organs, remains of aborted fetuses, and other such gruesome things. Okay, we're done with that. We're moving on now. Whispers Estate is currently available for paranormal investigations. Guests really do get their money's worth at Whispers Estate. The estate is full of paranormal activity, from disembodied voices, shadow figures. You get EVPs, furniture shaking, vortexes. People have been shoved, grabbed, scratched, and more. So let's dive into the non-living residents of Whispers Estate. It seems that many of the hauntings surround the Gibbons family. In Dr. John's waiting room, also called Big Black's room, there is a large black shadow that is seen. There are light anomalies reported during investigations, and women have claimed to be touched, groped, as well as hear a man's voice whispering in their ears. The black shadow, which is most often seen in the waiting room, has also been seen in other areas of the home. It's just most frequently seen in the waiting room, in Dr. John's waiting room. In the exam room, women say that they are touched in more violent manners. There are vintage crutches in the exam room that guests have reported moving on their own, as well as candles being thrown, and many mag lights have been manipulated, so being turned on and off or moved. Many guests that have come to investigate the estate say that going into the exam room often leaves them feeling nauseous, with migraines, and sometimes even leaves them with the taste of blood in their mouth, which, no thank you, do not sign me up for that experience. I would want a full refund, please, and thank you. In the parlor of the home is where Rachel's tragedy began. Remnants of the fire from that Christmas morning are still seen in the parlor, but so are other creatures. Guests have been bitten and scratched in the parlor. Full-bodied human and non-human apparitions have been seen, as well as entities and other visions seen in the mirror that is in the parlor. There's a piano in the parlor that is played on its own and houses dolls on top. These dolls are creepy as fuck. Like, the whole house had an air of just uncomfortability inside of it. It was a very eerie feeling. I didn't feel any malevolence there. I don't recall feeling like a demonic presence or anything, but it was very uneasy inside of Whispers Estate. These particular dolls don't like to be messed with. It is said that if they are touched, they will bring about bad luck in threes. And let's be honest, since 2020, it has been nothing but bad luck for most of us. So anyone that is going to a paranormal investigation at Whispers Estate and thinks that it's a good idea to be messing with these dolls, I mean, more power to you, but I am not playing those games. I did not mess with those dolls. I don't think I even really looked in their direction for fear of getting that bad juju rubbed all over me. The parlor does also have a gorgeous chandelier that's been known to shake violently during investigations. We did not have any shaking of furniture or chandeliers or anything like that. When we did our investigation that I took part in was in 2023. And while we were there in the parlor, the host was giving us the rundown of the home. So when you come into the home, they let you in and they bring you in to what would be considered, I believe, a dining area. There's a big table set up in there. They have drinks, refreshments for you. I believe there were some snacks left out as well for investigators to have during their stay. They also had some extra ghost hunting equipment in case you didn't come, if you're new investigators, like I am a semi-new investigator. I don't have a whole lot of ghost equipment on hand, so it was super helpful for me to have those things available to me. But they come in and then they have you sign your documents, your waivers, in case any ghosties get a little frisky in there with you. Went over the paperwork and everything. Once all of the documents were signed and everyone knew where that location was, that is when we moved into the parlor. In the parlor, the host goes through all the history of the home and all the rules in the like. I was sitting next to my friend during this time on one of the couches. I believe we were on the left side of the room, closest to the piano, if my memory serves correctly. And the host was standing almost right in front of us, but maybe a little towards the right-hand side of the room. But I was sitting next to my friend, and I kept looking up at the ceiling to my left. And my friend noticed me looking in that direction every few seconds, and she asked me what I was looking at. And I told her that I could see something on the ceiling to the left, but there wasn't anything when I looked there directly. So in my peripheral vision, I was seeing movement and more of like a shadowy figure. There was nothing fully formed or defined, but I could tell that there was movement in that area. And it was quite large. So I told her that I was just seeing something out of my peripheral vision up on the ceiling. And I whispered this to her because, the host was still going through things. Not even a minute later, exactly what I was seeing was being described by the host. And she went on to tell us that other guests have seen this exact entity. There were sketches that were in the book. They have, guest books that were there where guests can submit their photos that were taken during investigations. Injuries that were acquired there are often photographed and documented. They write their experiences out, but some guests also make sketches of things that they see in the home, and that entity was sketched on multiple occasions and left for the host to have put in these books. So to say that I was a little shocked would be an understatement. I remember looking at my friend as soon as she said that, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. We haven't even started the official investigation, and I'm already seeing shit crawling the ceilings. Like, this is going to be a doozy of a night. The master bedroom is known as Jesse's room, and that is located upstairs. And that is where Jesse Gibbons, who's the wife, passed away 2 weeks after their daughter Elizabeth died. And remember, Jesse and Elizabeth passed away in the same room. So that master bedroom. Jesse's room isn't said to be the most violent room in the home. That would be left to the exam room downstairs, but it does have a lot of activity in it that is still quite frightening. The lesser frightening things that happen in there, is people often report the scent of baby powder that can be smelled in the room, which is nice. The not fun reports in here are the scent of rotting flesh, which I don't love. So again, I would be skipping my loo right out of that house if that scent were wafting my way. While this did operate as a bed and breakfast, which it does not operate as a bed and breakfast right now. Currently, Whispers Estate only operates as an investigation site. They do not have a bed and breakfast license, so guests cannot stay fully overnight. So I believe investigations begin at 10 p.m. and they end at 4 a.m. But when this operated as a bed and breakfast, guests who slept in Jesse's room said that they would wake feeling like someone was sitting on their chest or that they could not breathe. Given that Jesse died of double pneumonia, that isn't a shocking feeling to have happen in that space, but is certainly not a comforting feeling to have happen, especially when you are physically fine and, you're healthy, and all of a sudden you wake up and you feel like you just cannot take breath in. That's horrifying. I could not even imagine that. Some other activity that's happened in Jesse's room are the bedroom and the closet doors often open on their own. There are toy cars in the closet that are said to be rolled out to guests that are in the room. The toy cars are left for Gary. Gary is thought to be the young boy that died who fell down the front stairs in the home. So I think it's really great that not only do the owners of the home leave things like this for investigators and ghosts to interact with, but I believe investigators often bring in toys not only for Gary, but also for Rachel. And we're going to get into that here in just a second. So if you're interested in investigating this estate, bring something for the kiddies. Rachel's room is that of a mischievous 10-year-old girl, even from beyond the grave. The room is home to many toys for Rachel to enjoy and play with, and she definitely does. There are beach balls left near her bed, and they're often tossed or rolled off of the bed with no one nearby. There have been reports of the beach balls being semi-deflated, and they do that on purpose. So, when you're investigating, the part of investigating is to debunk. right? You want to make sure that what you are catching, what evidence you are catching on camera, on EVPs, or just, even if you don't have any of the fancy stuff, just what you are experiencing is an authentic experience. So leaving the beach balls deflated in the room can then take away the possibility of, the heat was on or the air conditioning was on, or maybe it was a gust of wind that came through the room and that moved the ball. If they're deflated like that, that's not going to happen. There's no gale-forced winds happening inside this home. So they do leave them semi-deflated a lot of the time for that reason. There are a few dolls on the bed that do make sounds. So they have the capability of, a hand being squeezed or a stomach being squeezed and producing sound. However, these dolls do go off without anyone in the room or nearby the room. Several of the pillows have decorative strings and tassels on them, and they are often tied together, or the strings are pulled off and left on the floor around the room. Doll hair is also sometimes found pulled off of the dolls and left on the floor, which isn't very nice. We take care of our toys, Rachel. Don't be destructive, okay? Rachel's apparition is also sometimes seen running through the house, and giggles of children can be heard, which I guess if it's giggles, I just don't know how I feel about that. I don't think that there's anything more unsettling than a disembodied voice of a child coming up and chatting you up, or giggles happening when there are no children in the area and no reason for giggles to be happening. I think that would set me a little on edge. There's also a nursery in Whispers Estate where rocking chairs are said to move, and there have been wall sconces that have fallen to the floor without anyone touching it or moving into the room. During a tour of the home, there was a 9-year-old girl in the group, and she was scratched in the nursery during the trip. There are stairs near the nursery, and many people are pushed or pulled down the steps, resulting in injuries. There have been paranormal enthusiasts that have toured the home that have needed stitches after being shoved down these stairs. I will say, I know that the operations have changed a lot over the years. I believe these tours, obviously a 9-year-old on a ghost tour seems very young. I believe now you have to be over the age of 18 to go on one of these paranormal investigations. And to my knowledge, they do not offer daytime tours anymore. I think it operates mainly as an after-hours tour, so that 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. tour. There might be some special occasions where they do daytime tours that I am not familiar with, but as far as I know, these are strictly 18 years and overnight only. When we went last year, we were touring the home, obviously that overnight tour. The host does tell you while she's teaching you the history of the home after the initial, information given to us in the parlor. We were walked through the home with her so that we knew the layout and what rooms were what, gave us further history of the home during that time. And she does tell you when you're going through the home to make sure that when you are ascending or descending these stairs, to make sure that you have both hands on the railings, either going up or down. So when you're investigating independently, she's going to make sure that those specific stairs that you are to keep both of your hands on the railings at all time. And that's just due to the frequency in which people are shoved or pulled. Much like the staircase, the second floor hallway is also a hot spot for being shoved. This hallway also comes with unusual sounds and eerie feelings, almost like being watched. Footsteps can also be heard coming up the stairs and towards you in the hall without anyone actually being there. Probably one of the most terrifying spaces in the home is the servants' quarters, or Virgil's closet. Virgil was the father of the boy who died after he fell down the stairs. He passed away in the closet from a heart attack, but was it a heart attack? During one of the tours, there was a girl who was choked in that closet. Other guests have been said to be pushed or attacked in the quarters. A staff member was also locked in that closet, not during a tour, but during maintenance of the home. The lock on the closet is located on the outside of the closet door. There have also been reports of a large horned entity seen in the closet. That is a big, giant no thank you from me. And what haunted house wouldn't be complete without a seance room? Well, Whispers Estate aims to please, and they have their very own seance room in the attic of the home. There have been EVPs caught in the space, one of which was a man's voice saying, "Get out." And there have been a pair of eyes seen in the dark of the room as well. Not liking the dark eye creepiness. No, thank you. Also in the attic is the Red Room, and this is not your 50 Shades of Grey Red Room. This one is full of nightmares and night terrors. Previous guests have reported both, as well as being attacked and bitten in the room by an unseen force. This room is also said to be the heart of the home and houses a portal in the back of the room. While visiting the home in 2023, this room is probably one of the only rooms that really gave me some dizziness and buzzing feelings throughout my body. I did not like sitting on the bed in this room either. I just felt very off in that room. Unfortunately for me and a few of my friends that were on this investigation that night, the previous night of that investigation, there was a tornado that tore through our area. So a lot of us didn't get any sleep and we still had to get up and work in the morning. Or there was one of the people on the tour with me that did actually have damage to their home from that tornado. We chose not to cancel the investigation, but we did leave early. So aside from a good deal of REM pod activity in the exam room and feelings of nausea and just, that creepy ass thing on the ceiling and other minor things, I really didn't get much else. I will say I was out of there by about midnight though, since I did have more than an hour drive back home, but I absolutely would go back for another investigation. I am not overly afraid of this home. Obviously, that could change if I stayed for one of the overnight investigations and did the whole shebang. Perhaps if I were to get one of them scratches or bites, I'd probably feel a little different. With that said, though, Whispers Estate is a true and horrific gem for local, regional, and national paranormal enthusiasts alike. This home is a hotbed of activity. Whispers Estate has put out a call to action to help keep the estate open and running for those creepy souls who want to come and see it, if they can last the night under the same roof as some truly horrific spirits that are located in this home. But the roof is causing the current owner and operator some issues. Given recent storms in our area, we have had quite a few tornadoes in the last year or two, and it has caused a lot of damage in surrounding areas, and those high winds has caused this home some damage. Obviously, this home was originally built in the 1800s, and that comes with its own maintenance. Obviously, this is not a sponsored episode by Whispers Estate. This is purely just me doing my own investigation and research. I did notice that when I was on their website looking at current rates and everything, that this was shared, and I had a really, good time there at Whispers Estate, and I would like to see Whispers Estate continue giving these creepy people like me an experience. So I'm just letting listeners know that they are having some issues with the roof, and the owners have started a GoFundMe to replace the roof and fix some other issues that the home is having to remain open and scaring the crap out of people for years to come. And who knows, with a new roof, you might be stirring up those ghosts inside again. Like I said, the original activity in 2006 really amped up during the restoration process of this home. So going in and fixing some things could really piss those ghosts off some more, and you might be signing up right after that and get a hell of a ghost experience. If you would like to donate or share the link to help raise funds for Whispers Estate, I am going to include that in the show notes. For those of you who don't know what the show notes are, wherever you're listening, whether it be Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, the description of this episode, there is going to be notes in that section. At the bottom of that, I am going to put that GoFundMe link in there so that you can click on it, or you can copy it and post it to, other spooky friends that you might have to maybe help out Whispers Estate in their endeavor to fix up the estate to keep it open and running. Thank you for being here. Remember to give me a like and a share. Share with your friends, your family, any other creepy people that you know. The right kind of creepy. We're talking paranormal creepy, not, that weird uncle that comes to the family reunions. I don't want to hear from that guy. Liking and sharing the show, commenting really does go a long way for content creators as a whole, not just for me, but for anyone that you listen to or anyone that you follow that does put out content for people. Make sure you're kind. If you don't like the show, that's fine. Let's note, I am just getting started. Okay, so this isn't going to be your most stellar quality. I acknowledge that. I'm trying my best. You can find me at Ghost Tracks Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And you can listen to Ghost Tracks anywhere that you listen to your podcast. Thank you so very much for being here today and listening to my creepy stories about Whispers Estate. If you have been to Whispers Estate or if you have a creepy story of your own, I do listener stories episodes as well. If you would like to submit a listener story to be shared on this show, you can email that to me at ghosttrackspodcast@gmail.com. Again, I'll have that in the show notes. Thank you so very, very much for being here and for tuning in. Stay creepy. Until next time.